We were almost free. Almost. But history has a cruel habit of knocking twice. Once as colonizer, and again as conqueror. Our flag had been raised, but the rising sun came to tear it down. This is not just a story of war. It's a story of resistance, resilience, and redemption. This is part 4. Freedom Interrupted. The 1930s were loud in Europe, but in Asia, the drums of war were quieter until they weren't. Japan was rising, hungry for empire, and the Philippines, still tied to America, stood in its path. We had a flag, a government, and a plan for independence. But war does not ask permission, and in December 1941, it came screaming through the skies. December 7, 1941, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. The world is stunned. December 8, 1941, Japan attacks the Philippines. The islands are not stunned. We were next on the list. Airfields bombed, cities shelled, military unprepared, panic spread like fire. The rising sun didn't rise, it consumed. Manila was declared an open city, but bombs do not recognize declarations. As fire engulfed the capital, Filipino and American troops fell back to Bataan and Corregidor. It wasn't just a retreat, it was a last stand. For months, hungry, sick, exhausted, they held the line. Bataan became the symbol of sacrifice, of Filipino grit, of Allied delay tactics, but no reinforcement came, and eventually, even the strongest walls fall. April 1942, Bataan fell, but the suffering was just beginning. Over 60,000 Filipinos and 15,000 Americans were forced to march more than 100 kilometers, without food, water, or mercy. Men were beaten, bayoneted, shot if they paused, executed if they bent to help a friend. It was not a march. It was a massacre on foot. They called it the Bataan Death March, and it still haunts the soil where it happened. The rising sun now ruled the islands. But this was not peace. This was punishment. Filipino newspapers were censored, languages were banned, guerrillas were hunted like animals. Rice was rationed, fear was currency. The Japanese offered independence, a puppet government, a plastic flag, but the people knew better. Freedom cannot be staged, it must be earned. In the jungles, on the mountains, in the dark corners of occupied towns, the resistance grew. Hukbalahap in the north, guerrillas in the Visayas, underground networks in Manila, teachers became spies, farmers became soldiers. They sabotaged, they ambushed, they whispered freedom into the wind. Because no occupation lasts forever, not when the people remember how to fight. March 1942. MacArthur leaves for Australia. He says, "I shall return." Many doubted. October 1944. He returns. Not as a hero, but as a hammer. Allied forces land in Leyte. Filipino soldiers rise up. The liberation begins. And it's not just a military campaign, it's a promise fulfilled. And a wound reopened. Because to liberate something, you must first acknowledge it was lost. February 1945, the Battle of Manila. Once called the Pearl of the Orient, now reduced to rubble. Japanese forces, cornered and desperate, turned the city into a slaughterhouse. Civilians were massacred, hospitals bombed, churches burned. Over 100,000 Filipinos, gone in a single month. Liberation, yes, but at what cost? The war didn't end in victory. It ended in ash. July 4, 1946. After centuries of colonization, after years of blood and war, the United States grants independence. The flag flies high, the anthem plays, the republic is reborn. But we don't rise from celebration. We rise from trauma, a nation bruised, but breathing, independent, yes, but never the same. We had freedom once, then we lost it, then we fought for it, and earned it again, but not without scars, not without silence, not without stories we still struggle to tell. Our freedom was interrupted by war, by betrayal, by empire, but in that interruption, we discovered our voice again, and the fire still burns. Next, democracy takes root and is tested all over again.